Hello guys, my name is John Michael Sosa, and today I will be presenting you the final video project for APK 3103. Starting off with the muscle groups, of course I started off with the QL. After that, I chose the hamstrings, the adductors, the triceps surae, the deltoid, and of course the pectoralis major. Starting off with the QL, also known as the quadratus lumborum, it is an essential muscle and plays a vital role in lower back stability. It's also the deepest back muscle and originates from the iliac crest. It inserts onto the transverse process of lumbar 1 through lumbar 4 and the lower part of the 12th rib. In addition, the QL muscle is also a flattened muscle and has a quadrangular shape. The QL muscle is an extensor of the lumbar spine and a stabilizer of the lumbar area. It is capable of flexing laterally. An interesting fact of the QL is that it is often referred to as the hip hiker due to its role in elevating the hip during activities such as walking and running around. Moving on with the activation and elongation section. To activate and strengthen the QL, you want to incorporate side bending exercises like lateral flexion. So side plank variations and seated side stretches can help engage the QL effectively. If you want to elongate, you're going to want to focus on stretches involving lateral flexion in the opposite direction. Moving on with the next muscle group, hamstrings. The long head originates from the ischial tuberosity of the pelvis, while the short head originates from the linea aspera on the posterior surface of the femur. Together, these heads form a tendon and inserts onto the tibia / fibula. The muscles in the posterior compartment of the thigh are collectively known as the hamstrings, of course. They consist of the biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus, which forms prominent tendons which are located medially and laterally at the back of the knee. The function of this muscle group is that it is responsible for knee flexion and hip extension, and it plays a role in walking and running and other lower body movements. An interesting fact of the hamstrings is that they are more prone to injury in activities that involve in sudden deacceleration and acceleration, such as sprinting. Moving on with the activation and elongation section. To activate and strengthen the hamstrings, you want to use exercises such as the deadlifts or leg curls, which target primarily the hamstrings. In order to elongate the hamstrings, you want to perform dynamic stretches such as leg swings or static stretches like the forward bend. Moving on with the next muscle group, adductors. The origin of the adductors is the body of pubis, which is inferior to the pubic crest and lateral to the pubic symphysis. It inserts into the middle third of the linea aspera of the femur, which is the medial lip. The structure of the adductors muscle is that it has a triangular structure, mostly anterior placed of the muscle adductor group. The function of this muscle group is thigh flexion, thigh adduction, and thigh external rotation, including pelvis stabilization. An interesting fact is that adductors are often neglected in training, which can lead to imbalances and potential injury. Incorporating targeted exercises is crucial for comprehensive lower body strength. Moving on with the activation and elongation section. To activate and strengthen the adductors, you want to perform exercises such as leg presses or side lunges, which targets this muscle group. In order to elongate the adductors, you want to perform dynamic stretches such as side leg swings and static stretches such as the seated groin stretch or even a butterfly stretch when you're as so. Moving on with the next muscle group will be the triceps surae. It originates at the distal femur. The gastrocnemius originates at the distal femur, while the soleus originates at the posterior tibia. Together, it attaches to the posterior aspect of the calcaneus through the Achilles tendon. The structure is that it has a three-headed muscle structure in the posterior compartment of the leg, and it consists of two muscles, of course. Once again, the gastrocnemius and the soleus. The function of this muscle group is foot plantar flexion, leg flexion at the knee joint, and foot plantar flexion at the talocrural joint. An interesting fact of this muscle group is that it is often referred to as the diamond-shaped muscle due to its distinct appearance. Of course, this structure contributes to its function. And moving on with the next section, activation and elongation. In order to activate and strengthen the triceps array, you want to perform exercises such as calf raises and heel raises. In order to elongate this muscle group, you will want to perform dynamic stretches like toe walks and static stretches like the wall calf stretch. Moving on with the deltoid muscle group, it has three parts: the clavicular, acromial, and spinal part. The clavicular part originates from the lateral third of the clavicle. The acromial part of the acromion of the scapula, and the spinal part from the spine of the scapula. They all insert into a deltoid tuberosity of the humerus. The structure of the deltoid is that it looks like an upside down triangle, and the tendons connect each of the three sides to the bones. The base of the deltoids connects to the upper part of your scapula and the side of your clavicle. The function of this muscle group is that it plays an important role in helping you move your arm in different directions. They also stabilize your shoulder joint and protect it from injuries such as dislocations. An interesting fact of the deltoid muscle group is that it is named after the Greek letter delta, mostly because it roughly resembles the letter D in shape. Moving on with the next section, activation and elongation. In order to activate and strengthen the deltoid muscle group, you want to perform exercises such as lateral raises and shoulder presses, which targets this muscle group primarily. In order to elongate, you want to perform exercises or stretches, dynamic stretches such as arm circles, and static stretches like the across the body stretch. Lastly, with the pectoralis major muscle group, the clavicular part originates at the anterior surface of the medial half of the clavicle. The sternocostal part originates at the anterior surface of the sternum and the costal cartilages of ribs 1 through 6. And the abdominal part originates at the anterior layer of the rectus sheath. Together, they all insert into the crest of the greater tubercle of humerus. The structure of the pectoralis major muscle covers the anterior thoracic cage. It has three heads, like I've mentioned before: the clavicular, sternocostal, and the abdominal. The function of this muscle group is that it includes flexion, adduction, and internal rotation of the humerus. An interesting fact is that the pectoralis major is often referred to as the pecs in fitness slang. This term is widely used to describe the prominent chest muscles. Moving on with the activation and elongation section. To activate and strengthen the pectoralis major, you want to perform exercises such as the bench press and chest flies, which targets the pectoralis major. In order to elongate this muscle group, you will want to perform dynamic stretches like arm swings and static stretches like doorway stretch. These are the citations or the references that I've used in order to make this PowerPoint and also the written section of the project. Thank you guys, and thank you guys. I had a wonderful semester, and thanks a lot for everything.